So when I started working on the fundamental ideas for my startup, here's the first thing that I did. Is I sat down and I looked within the network of people over the last 30 years that I've interacted with, and I looked to identify people that could help develop the idea from the standpoint of getting feedback. I didn't need them to help me develop the idea. I just needed some feedback from people that I really, really trusted. And it's important because there is no business that's built in a vacuum, and you have to rely on a network that you've developed over the years to help move your idea forward. You know, in life, like as you get to this point, you know, and I've said in the past, as you get to this point, you've spent a career developing either your skill set, a business, and or worked within organizations where you've helped advance the overall business objective. And so you have to sit down, and as you map out your business for the first time, your idea, and you start like plotting it. And I highly recommend these steps. Like, first thing, create a simple outline of what the business purpose is. Create how you're going to create revenue. Where's the revenue going to come from? One of the most important parts is you have to be able to communicate effectively to your audience, whether it's to raise money, the customer side of the business, and also the community, the intent and how this business is going to be successful and support itself. In the beginning, you don't need capital. In the beginning, you don't need a huge team. In the beginning, you don't need a website. You don't need, somebody answering your phone. You don't need any of those things. You need a clear roadmap. So you need hear it carefully. You need a clear roadmap on what you're trying to accomplish. And then you have to have a clear roadmap on how to make money. And it's interesting, the other day I was on a call and someone made a comment, and somebody I respect a lot, somebody made a comment. It was like, Chad, if you had a greater pedigree, if you had worked for X, Y, or Z, or if you've done the following with this organization, this would be real easy for you. You could just wave your hand in the air and like people would throw money at you. And he goes, because you're trying to solve a problem in an industry that hasn't changed. This is the status quo is the status quo, and this is the only way they kind of operate. And I kind of laughed and I said, "Oh, I understand. I understand. I'm always super respectful when somebody provides me input, right? Because I don't take it as criticism. I take it as input." And I said, "But the exact reason why this business itself, the reason why this business is going to work." The number one reason, and why it'll be profitable, is because I'm an outsider looking in, seeing a problem, going with another outsider looking in, seeing the same problem, and those two people with no pedigree, but will, determination, inventiveness, and innovation can solve the problem at a faster pace. And we aren't predetermined to be stuck in this the vapor, the vapor of the industry on what's acceptable. And so it's just interesting that if you just take what I've just told you and you look at it differently from your own, in a video I made the other day, I talked about how a service tech working for a company then takes his own van and his own money or his truck, and he now starts a service business. If you look at that exact scenario and you say that service tech that works for a company that follows their policies and the procedures and interacts with the customer every day has more data than the company itself. And the reason why I say that is that person is gathering data from the customer base that he potentially is going to go create the business for. And in my case, I went and used my network, and I reached out to people making phone calls that would have an interaction in the industry that I'm moving into. And it's even more coincidental that all at the very beginning, at the time, almost 2 years ago, I had read an article where a business owner was trying to launch his brand, and he went and identified where he thought the weakness was, and he started calling businesses that would potentially buy his product. And he knew nobody had that product, and so he would ask them, "Oh, do you have X?" And they would say, no, I haven't heard of it before. He's like, oh, okay, gosh, and he would move the conversation forward. So he started then, taking notes. And it's not the first time I've heard this. I heard about a clothing brand that, went in and said, oh, do you have X? And then, got their brand in there and then sent all their friends in to buy the brand so they'd sell out so the company would buy more. And so sometimes it takes, your network of people to help you move your objective forward. As I've grown this, startup and I've put together all the parts, it has been fundamentally important to remain focused on a company that can produce profit, not a company that is all about press releases and spreadsheets and marketing material. Because today, the companies that will be wildly successful will be companies that are built on profit. And I understand the runway and launching the company, there may be a period where you might have 12 or 18 months where the profitability isn't really there, but you should quickly be able to turn your funded business into a profit center that can grow, and then you can use either the profits and or the ability to raise more capital because the company is profitable, not because the company is creating this imaginary product, right? I think that's very, very critical. And so in the beginning, from day one, you should be thinking, how do I build a company, or how do I build a product, or how do I build a service that is profitable? And then you should say, how do I make it profitable? And you should build your model backwards. You should say, I'm going to sell X. That X, I want to make Y, so I want a 25% return after all expenses. And in order to do that, the product needs to cost X, or the service needs to cost X. And then you just keep building yourself backwards and then say, okay, I have to sell it for Y. Because if the whole point in you taking this extensive risk is for you to build something that's incredible. And you'll have more value about yourself and your work than you will about any amount of money that you could ever generate. And I think it's the key ingredient to a successful startup is starting with the fundamental of my company will be profitable by X, and here's how I'm going to achieve it. In the beginning, when you start raising money, you don't want to get caught up in okay, so I can raise a bunch of money and then, okay, great, we have this money, now what do we do? You should have the mindset of the business that I want to start solves this problem. Not there's this problem that I'm solving for, solves this problem, and here's why. And so in my case, my product or service solves a need for a customer base, an enterprise customer, 2 to 3 years faster than the current market conditions. And it's achieved by doing the following. And because of that, this business, while it cost 10% more to deliver it to market, it returns revenue 36 months faster than its same similar competitor in the same industry. And so that is a real key component to being highly successful. Can you beat market conditions with speed and efficiency? And if you can beat them with speed and efficiency, your ability to sell that to a customer and have them pay for a higher end product, deliver faster with a better service, is your key to success. Because at the end of the day, the very first thing you should do when you're starting a startup is determine how you will make revenue and when you will be profitable, not an imaginary spreadsheet. I will do it by the following with these set of parameters. And that is the key ingredient. Be cautious about press releases that you read, post on your favorite social media sites or videos that you watch of people that in your mind have achieved wild success. Because at the end of the day, the absolute only thing that counts when you start your startup and it turns into a real business is that you can grow it, you can become profitable, and you get great value out of it, because then there is nothing that will stop that business from being wildly successful.